right, the second adventure, which was actually, I believe, the first for Peter Davison's Doctor Who. That's, the sequence in which they taped the show. So I think Forward to Doomsday was the first one they did, and then after that, I believe that's when they did Castrovalva. But, scheduling and locations and whatnot can determine how you do this, and this is true of all shows and whatnot. And so they kind of had to play it off because they can't play their characters as they know each other and they're accustomed to one another in Castrovalva, even though they'd already done a whole other story. So, and they did, I think it flows very well between the two. And, the business of Peter Davison's hair color changing, well, that's just, you can chalk that up to the regeneration period. It was still having brown color into blonde from this previous incarnation. So anyway, this one it's a good one. It's very simple. It's basically kind of a classic template of Doctor Who, and it works out. The set, looking at it, because it's all on set, which but it's the set pieces that they use, and I'm sure a lot of it is repurposed stuff, but you could use that today, with, I'm sure with different lighting and, of course, superior photography now with the advances in camera technology and whatnot. But it could be done, So other elements of it, well, it's very much of its time. They show the ship, and it's trying to look like from Star Wars, but it still looks like a toy. So, but hey, it is what it is. It didn't quite have that nailed out, but for the rest of it, it's fine. It's just the scene where the character they introduce the character of Bygone, and he ends up helping the Doctor because he won't let bygones be bygone. But the big reveal. All right, let me just get into it. I'll get back to it. So he's still trying to get Tegan back home, and he says, "Hey, don't worry, I can get you back on time because it's a time traveler, and it'll be like nothing ever happened." And well, that's an interesting thing because later on, especially with what happens to Adric, he says, "No, I can't violate the rules of time. What happened happened. I can't change it." By putting Tegan back before she left, you are changing time. And I mean, it's like the relevance of it, of what's happening. How do you determine it? He's just going to go ahead and put her back where she accidentally stumbled into the TARDIS and all that. And then all this other stuff happened. It won't change any of that, of course. But her not going to her job has now been pretty much established. And there's also the other thing, how long could she go having adventures with the Doctor and then be put back at the moment she left when she clearly would have aged from the time, and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, but it's kind of like, well, it's just a simple thing. She, she's going to lose her job if we don't put her back in the right time. But the idea of someone, well, they died, so we need to go back in time and stop it from happening. So okay, that's more serious than someone losing their job. So you could change that. Well, can you? Because events play out as they do, but when do you make that decision? Because he doesn't know what other events are affected by Tegan not showing up for work. But anyway, that's what they're trying to do. And of course, they, spoilers, they never do. Poor Tegan she's she's not into this. Like sometimes and I think that's more credible and real about someone who was not interested in being the Doctor's companion. She cares about them. She becomes friends with them as they go, of course. But this wasn't what she wanted, and she's against her will, she's forced into this, and so her attitude and everything is perfectly understandable. And so it's one of the interesting ways, and it's very credible and real, whereas some of the later shows and the characters just throw in there and they all want to jump in and do it and they're all excited, and I don't think that's believable, not in every case. So there she is. It doesn't work, and I guess the excuse being here as to why the Doctor's TARDIS, he doesn't get her back at. I guess they're heading for the Heathrow Airport. You can't get her there. Well, they're interfered by this ship from the Vogons. No, no, 3 frogs, all dressed up like Ming the Merciless, and of course it's a nefarious plot. So comes on here, and then there's all these humans, and they claim that these are humans from ancient times and whatnot. So you got a guy, Bygone is from the ancient Greece. You have some Aborigine guys, and they all have their sort of chosen representatives or leaders, I guess, and the rest just seem to play in these, they call it the recreation, where you'll have the Greeks have sort of gladiatorial contests, I guess. The Chinese will do the like the parades with the dragon deal, and they're dancing around. The Mayans, they do a little dance thing, and then the Aborigines, they do their sort of dance, and all that sort of stuff. So it becomes clear as to why that's all they do. Where the seeming leaders seem to have seem to have more autonomy up to themselves. And so he's like, oh, what's all this about? And he says, oh, they're an ancient race and all this sort of thing. So at first the Doctor's not all as suspicious. Everyone else is, especially Tegan. And in one of the gladiatorial fights, it's a real thing that one of them loses and he gets stabbed, and Tegan's horrified and she runs out, and Bygone's trying to, it's not as bad as you think. Because, spoiler, they're all androids. The frogs, I forget what their real name was, keep talking about, the flesh time. And what they've done, and the means by which they've achieved their immortality, is they basically download their consciousness into a data chip, and they put it in these android bodies. And that's what they've done with these human captives they have. But they're going to go to Earth and take it over. Their planet's long gone, and that's their plan, they believe, to get there, and I guess all be turned into human-looking androids and whatnot, and infiltrate the Earth or what have you. But that's not what the leader, his name's Monarch, that's not really his plan. And we later discover that he hasn't fully gone to being a full android. He still has some organic material of himself. And because he believes he wants to use the minerals of the Earth to be able to achieve light faster than light speed, to travel back before the Big Bang, to prove that he is indeed God and that he'll meet himself. Yeah, he's not all he's lost some marbles, and so yeah, that's the plot. And of course, the Doctor thwarts him. There's the thing about the companions. I think they were attempting to recreate Zoe and Jamie. It doesn't quite work out because I don't think the actors were up to it. But it's just not there. But that's kind of like what Nissa's supposed to be Zoe, and of course Adric, Jamie. But it doesn't work out that way, and actually the relationship between the Doctor and Adric is quite strained, which apparently was true behind the scenes as well. But and it ultimately ends up in that sad ending for Adric, and it you can see that it kind of, they don't really pursue it much, as I recall. We'll get to it, but that it does, how heavily does it weigh on the Doctor about what happens and everything. But anyway, that's how it is. With that, Tegan is actually the more character of depth, and perhaps that's more to Janet Fielding's abilities or what have you. But she's, to me, is the more interesting of the companions that they have. And of course, she's always suspicious of everything because it's freaking her out, But eventually the Doctor catches on. Oddly enough, there's a scene where Adric just falls for everything the Monarch says, and yet I thought, they're doing the same thing he did in State of Decay, where he's pretending to go along and all. But no, he thinks this is a wonderful idea, even though he's they all become androids. No. And they almost do it to Nyssa, and all this sort of stuff. And ultimately, the Doctor defeats the Monarch by copying a move by the Master. He shrinks him down because that's a viral weapon that does that. And it's kind of funny. The Monarch says, "Now I've got you." He just throws it at him. And that's it. And so now he really is the size of a frog, and so on and so forth. There is the scene where the Doctor gets stuck out in space, does a spacewalk, and obviously it's it looks cheesy for its time, but it works out, and it's a pretty cool little thing they managed to do. And of course, how does he do it? He gets stuck. Well, he has his cricket ball, and he uses that to push him just ever so slightly to the TARDIS, which is out there because Tegan tried to take off and leave, but she doesn't know what she's doing. But she did manage to get it to take off, so it can happen. Fortunately, it didn't go too far away. Otherwise, well. But anyway, it's a simple show, and that's fine. And that's a lot of times you need those. And a good little adventure. You've got some smart-ass villains here, think they know better, and ultimately that is their undoing. And so there you go. And in the end, they were all just computer chips. Anyway, they leave, and the Bygone says, "No, we're gonna go find another planet." And I'm okay, but the sad thing is you're not alive. You're just these androids. But well, that's something that could have been followed up on, I guess. There are a lot of shows, sci-fi shows, you can, it says, well, whatever happened to those guys, what became of that? And, but not as much as others, I guess. But anyway, there you go, to Doomsday. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.